June 10th, 2016. That was the day The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was supposed to hit theaters. But not only did that movie never come out, it was never even filmed. And even stranger, Sony had already announced it. They had the dates locked, the spin-offs in motion, and Andrew Garfield, he was all in. So what happened? Well, the deeper you dig, the messier it gets. From studio panic, fan backlash, and a public fallout with Garfield himself, to the desperate Marvel deal that rewrote everything. So this isn't just the story of a cancelled superhero sequel, it is a behind-the-scenes disaster that changed Spider-Man forever. And the truth is even more frustrating than you remember. So it all started when Sony was looking for an actor to star in a new Spider-Man reboot, and the one that got the role was Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield was chosen for his ability to portray Peter Parker's vulnerability and intelligence. Director Mark Webb praised Garfield's emotional depth and his chemistry with Emma Stone, which brought a fresh dynamic to the film. Garfield's personal connection to the character, having been a fan since childhood, also contributed to his great audition. Then it was time for The Amazing Spider-Man to be released, and when it did, it was a success. The Amazing Spider-Man grossed approximately $758.7 million worldwide, with $262 million from North America and $495 million internationally. It was the 7th highest grossing film of 2012. Critics also praised the movie, and by that the performances and visual effects. Since this movie was a great success, Sony wanted Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to become a big franchise. So in December 2013, press release announced a Spider-Man creative team, which would consist in Mark Webb, producers, and 5 writers to map out all the sequel. It confirmed The Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Mark Webb returning to direct for a June 10, 2016 release, while on the side, Sony was also developing spin-offs for Black Cat and Venom. Even The Amazing Spider-Man 2 teased some of these future projects. Post-credits showed Oscorp Tech, Vulture's wings and Doc Ock's tentacles, and a revived Norman Osborn, signaling in that way that Sony planned a Sinister Six team-up. Also, both Garfield and Mark Webb spoke positively in 2014 about continuing Peter Parker's story, implying Amazing Spider-Man 3 was the next logical chapter. So everything looked like a third Spider-Man film was inevitable. All signs pointed towards the release of this movie. Everything was the proof, and they already had the plan, so what happened? What went wrong? Why did the third Spider-Man movie never happen? First of all, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't a huge success in the box office. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 grossed about $709 million worldwide, roughly on par with the first reboot, but not exceeding it. Its domestic take was only $202.9 million, which is the lowest of any Spider-Man film, and obviously less than Sony expected for a big-budget superhero sequel. Also, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was destroyed by the critics. Right now it holds about 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the worst of the franchise, and basically the reviewers said that this was bloated, CGI-heavy plot, and overstuffed script, in that way signaling the series was already suffering franchise fatigue, despite Andrew Garfield's likable performance. So even though the film didn't do that badly, it sent a big red flashing warning that the series was losing its momentum, that fans were getting tired of this Spider-Man. Fans were sour on Amazing Spider-Man 2, and many complained the sequel was to focus on the setup, and all of this at the expense of a coherent story. Many also said that Sony wasted Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man with such bad writings, and honestly, I completely agree. I liked the first Spider-Man movie, but I do think Sony could have given Andrew a way better script, because if that's the performance he achieved with such a mid script, with a good script, I mean, this could have been a different story. But then Sony was hit by a massive hack that exposed everything happening behind the scenes at the studio. Early on, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was delayed from 2016 to 2018 as writers and directors left projects. Also, in May 2015, one leaked email reportedly fired Garfield from the franchise after he missed a major promotion event in Brazil. Andrew Garfield later said that he skipped due to illness. This same leak showed Sony co-chair Amy Pascal urgently emailing Marvel's Kevin Feige about rebooting Spider-Man and integrating him into the MCU. So what once seemed like a sure thing, Sony developing The Amazing Spider-Man 3, quickly turned into an uncertain future for Andrew's Spider-Man. Spider-Man creative team was reshuffled, all plans were scrapped, and Sony even floated alternative ideas like an animated Spider-Verse comedy as they scrambled to find a hit. And then something happened, and any remaining hope for the project moving forward was completely shattered. In early 2015, Sony made a huge deal with Marvel Studios. Under the agreement, Marvel would co-produce the next Spider-Man film for free and feature the character in the MCU. In that way, Sony was also admitting that they are not really good at making Spider-Man movies, at least the live-action ones, because they seem to nail the animated and video games. So as a result, the franchise was reset. Peter Parker's age was taken back to high school, and Sony's next solo film, Spider-Man Homecoming, was re-envisioned with a 19-year-old Tom Holland in the role. In effect, this deal officially ended the Andrew Garfield era. Sony granted Marvel creative input, and with Holland cast, any notion of The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was set aside. But let's imagine none of this ever happened. No deal with Marvel, no underwhelming box office. What if The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had been a massive hit? What kind of future could we have seen with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man? Well, thankfully, we don't have to completely guess. Between interviews, leaked emails, and early concept art, there's actually quite a bit that gives us a glimpse into what The Amazing Spider-Man 3 could have been. So let's break it all down. Director Mark Webb later said the film would have Peter Parker fighting a Sinister Six assembled at Oscorp, so all signs were pointing towards a huge multi-villain payoff built into the Sinister Six. Other plots circulating online included a return of the Green Goblin persona and Harry Osborn's twisted arc. Sony's spin-off slate also unraveled that they had hired Daredevil creator Drew to write and direct a Sinister Six movie. Also, scripts for a Black Cat film and a standalone Venom movie had been announced. Venom eventually emerged in 2018 with Tom Hardy, but Black Cat and others never materialized in the Garfield era. Sony also wanted to do some multiversal stories. One of them supposedly was Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen, even with Emma Stone rumored to reprise a version of this role. But all of this was just speculation, rumors, and some people connecting the dots. And even though none of this ever came to life, Andrew eventually found the closure he deserved. And with Spider-Man No Way Home, not only did he get the love he was owed, but fans started speculating and hoping that this might not be the end for his Spider-Man after all. In Spider-Man No Way Home, Andrew Garfield finally reprised his Spider-Man alongside Tobey Maguire. The surprise was widely celebrated. On social media, the hashtag #MakeTheAmazingSpider-Man trend as fans urged Sony to give Garfield another movie. Even Tom Holland joined the hype. He publicly said that Sony had his full support if they were to make an Amazing Spider-Man 3 movie with Andrew Garfield. Fan enthusiasm exploded post No Way Home. Thousands signed petitions and filled Twitter with calls for The Amazing Spider-Man 3. As one report noted, the cameos led some fans to demand that Andrew Garfield get a proper shot at The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Sony has only confirmed the Holland sequel Spider-Man Brand New Day for now. Andrew Garfield himself has also tasted interest in returning on his own terms. Like speaking in 2025, he said a comeback would need to be very weird and creatively free. In short, No Way Home revived the love for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and reignited fan hope, but no official Andrew Garfield-led film has been announced. So in my personal opinion, Andrew Garfield was great as Spider-Man. He did such a good performance of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man, even though the script didn't help him a lot. You can also tell that he loved the character. Very early on when he was cast, he said that Spider-Man was everything to him, and that it was such a pleasure to portray him. And he also managed to become such an unique Spider-Man. I really hope he can get his shot on doing a third Spider-Man film, because I think he really deserves a third movie. It would be amazing to see him as a full-grown Peter Parker that has to mix responsibilities between work and being Spider-Man. It would be the perfect closure for him, and I truly hope this happens in the future.
Guys, this has always been a dream of mine, so thanks for having me. You have no idea how much this means to me. I've always wanted to come here as a fan, and this is my first time, so here I am as a fan. Stan Lee says that the reason why Spidey is so popular is because all of us can relate to him, and I agree. I needed Spidey in my life, and he gave me hope. In every comic I read, he was living out mine and every skinny boy's fantasy of being stronger, of being free of the body I was born into. And upon receiving his power, unlike most who become corrupted, he used it for good. And I think we all wish that we had the courage to stick up for ourselves more. And Peter Parker has inspired me to feel stronger. He made me, Andrew, braver. He reassured me that by doing the right thing, it's worth it. It's worth the struggle. It's worth the pain. It's worth even the tears, the bruises, and the blood. I wouldn't be able to stand here in front of you guys right now without feeling that Spider-Man was here with me, with his reassuring hand on my shoulder, making sure I don't fall over and concuss myself. And he has inspired countless people, girls, boys, men, women, all of us. He has saved lives, and he saved my life. This is definitely the coolest moment of my life, and thank you for being here and sharing it with me.
We're almost at 500 subscribers, so I would really appreciate it if you sub. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.